With the departure of Senator Ted Cruz and John Kasich, Donald Trump is the presumptive Republican nominee for president. Meanwhile, Democratic challengers Bernie Sanders and Hillary Clinton are pressing on to next week's West Virginia primary. Despite Sanders' recent win in Indiana, he trails Clinton in the pledged delegate count by more than 300. Add in superdelegates, and Clinton is just under 200 delegates shy of the number needed to clinch the nomination. But neither Sanders nor his supporters seem ready to concede. At a news conference Sunday, Sanders appealed to the Democratic Party's superdelegates.
It is virtually impossible for Secretary Clinton to reach the majority of convention delegates by June 14th with pledged delegates alone. She will need superdelegates to take her over the top at the convention in Philadelphia. In other words, the convention will be a contested contest. We believe that we are in a very strong position to win many of these remaining contests, and we have an excellent chance to win in California, the state with far and away the most delegates. Where Secretary Clinton and I strongly agree, and where every delegate to the Democratic convention strongly agrees, is that it would be a disaster for this country if Donald Trump or some other right-wing Republican were to become president of the United States. Therefore, in my view, it is incumbent upon every superdelegate to take a hard and objective look at which candidate stands the better chance of defeating Donald Trump and other Republican candidates. And in that regard, I think the evidence is extremely clear that I would be the stronger candidate to defeat Trump or any other Republican.
Today, we're going to take a look at the new movement called Bernie or Bust. A recent McClatchy-Maris poll found 1 out of 4 Sanders supporters say they would not back Clinton in a general election. About 70% say they would support her. Speaking last week at a victory rally after winning primaries in Pennsylvania, Maryland, Connecticut, Rhode Island, and Delaware, Hillary Clinton appealed to Sanders supporters.
Because whether you support Senator Sanders or you support me, there's much more that unites us than divides us. We all agree that wages are too low and inequality is too high, that Wall Street can never again be allowed to threaten Main Street, and we should expand Social Security, not cut or privatize it. We Democrats agree that college should be affordable to all, and student debt shouldn't hold anyone back. We Democrats agree that every single American should and must have quality, affordable health care. We agree that our next president must keep our country safe, keep our troops out of another costly ground war in the Middle East. And we Democrats agree that climate change is an urgent threat. And it requires an aggressive response that can make America the clean energy superpower of the 21st century. And we Democrats agree on defending all of our rights, civil rights and voting rights, workers' rights and women's rights, LGBT rights, and rights for people with disabilities.
The division among Democrats who support Bernie Sanders versus Hillary Clinton recalls the 2008 presidential campaign and the staunch Clinton supporters who joined together under the acronym PUMAs, or Party Unity, My Ass, they said, vowing never to back her then-rival Barack Obama. Well, for more, we're joined by 2 guests. Mike McGinn is the former mayor of Seattle, serving from 2010 to 13. He hosts a podcast on social change called You, Me, Us, Now. He is a Bernie Sanders supporter, but will support Hillary Clinton if she becomes the nominee. Shama Sawant is a Socialist City Council member in Seattle, member of the Socialist Alternative, a nationwide organization of social and economic justice activists. She also is a Bernie Sanders supporter who says she will not support Clinton. We welcome you both to Democracy Now! Shama Sawant, let us begin with you, because you really started this whole Bernie or bust campaign. Explain what it is.
So I just wanted to clarify, myself and Socialist Alternative, we did not launch the Bernie or Bust campaign. We launched what was called Movement for Bernie, movement with the number 4 Bernie.org website. But we are very much in sympathy with the sentiments that have been expressed by the people who have initiated Bernie or Bust, which is that it's really kind of a bankrupt strategy to say that all the people, the millions of young people who have been politicized, for the first time in their lives because of Sanders's message of a political revolution against the billionaire class, should now all hunker down and support Clinton. And, I think the analysis that we need to have really has to flow from some essential points. One is this is a historic moment and a historic movement, really. Since the Occupy movement, what we're seeing is a tremendous fundamental shift in American consciousness, and that is an anger against corporate politics and a desire to fight against the establishment. On the other hand, you're also seeing the ascendancy of Trump, which is, I think, on everybody's mind, the rise of this right-wing ideology, Islamophobia, bigotry, and I absolutely find it terrifying. But my problem is that if we are looking for a real strategy to break working people away from Trump, then what we have to do is present a real alternative. And Sanders is right, Bernie is right. In poll after poll, repeatedly and systematically, he has done remarkably well in terms of the fact that if he was to be the Democratic candidate, he would deliver a thumping defeat to Trump. Why is the Democratic Party establishment not doing everything in their power to promote his campaign? That's the question that people should be asking, and that's why I would say, as a socialist, that we need an independent party for the 99%, and the fantastic way to begin that process would be for Bernie to run as an independent throughout November.
Have you talked to him about this?
I have talked to him personally, yes, and I think that at this moment, as we all know, he has said that he has indicated that he will probably endorse Clinton, and Clinton herself is, understandably talking about how his supporters need to support her. But I would challenge this idea that all the supporters that were behind her, supporting Obama, that's the same thing as Bernie supporters supporting Hillary this year. I don't think it's fundamentally the same situation at all. Bernie is calling for a political revolution against the billionaire class. Hillary is the epitome of the political establishment that has promoted the interests of the billionaire class to the detriment of the interests of working people. Bernie is calling for single-payer healthcare. Clinton is the woman who said, well, you can't do single-payer healthcare. And she's being honest. That's a rare moment of honesty for her, because on the basis of supporting her and the establishment, no, you cannot win single-payer healthcare. Unfortunately, though, for us, on the basis of supporting her and the Democratic establishment, you can't defeat the right either.
Mike McGinn, you are a diehard Bernie Sanders supporter, but you feel differently if it was Hillary Clinton who would be the nominee. You would support her.
Yes, that's right. And I'm definitely an early Bernie Sanders supporter, and I would say a diehard one. I'm not a diehard Democrat by any means, and that's one of the reasons I supported Bernie. In fact, I believe I endorsed Shama in her re-election campaign just this past year here in Seattle. But the reason is that I look at the differences between Clinton and Trump and what a disaster Trump would be. And I want to see, I look back on the election where, I remember us thinking then that Al Gore, he was just too corporate and he was just too Washington. And as I look at the lack of progress under Bush, all of the mistakes that happened under Bush, I would have liked to have Gore. And one of the things I would say to Sanders supporters is that the presidential race, it's not the game, it's just the scoreboard. And this is a high watermark right now for, the movement that Shama stands for, and many of the things that I believe in, and that we need to return power to working people and address racism and get really serious about climate change. And that energy can move to a lot of other places besides this election, and clearly the differences between Clinton and Trump lead me to support Clinton in this election.
Mm-hmm. What is most distinct for you in the differences between Clinton and Trump?
I mean, on the quote Sherman Alexie, you know, the dog whistle became an air horn on racism in the Republican Party, and I just find that absolutely horrifying. You know, I look at our city and how wonderfully diverse it is and how we're struggling to work together to address problems, and there are big divisions. I just look at a Trump presidency as being so divisive and wrong for this country. And, you know, Hillary Clinton clearly has shifted positions over the years, but a powerful movement, I believe, can lead and push her to the places where we'd like to see the country go.
We're going to break, then come back to this discussion. We are talking to Mike McGinn, who's the former mayor of Seattle, and Shama Sawant, who is a Socialist City Council member here in Seattle, Washington. This is Democracy Now! We'll come back to this discussion about Bernie or bust in a moment.